Hey, it's the advocate, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing a positive young man who is making great changes in his community. His name is Cam Phillips, and he is the executive director of True Change, a non-for-profit in Atlanta. Welcome, Cam, to the CJ Cares podcast. How are you doing today?
Doing great, brother. I'm doing great. Blessed and highly favored, like I like to say.
Definitely, definitely. Now, Cam, you in the Atlanta area, which is a warm weather state. If you had to travel outside that state to go somewhere else for a vacation, where would you go?
Right now, Ghana's on my mind, man. Had a couple homies go for New Year's. I haven't had a chance to go to the continent. Period. So that's top on the list.
Yeah, Ghana seems like an ideal location. Now, would you consider yourself an Apple or a supporter of Android?
You already know when I see that green bubble pop up, it's not a good look, man. So I'm team Apple all the way.
Right, that's awesome. That's cool. All right, a lot of Apple supporters out here. Now, Cam, I wanted to ask you, if you could choose a theme song for yourself. I believe that healthcare workers are superheroes for the jobs that we have to do every single day, including the non-for-profit sector. What theme song would you choose for yourself?
For sure. So said feel like two come to mind. One probably gonna hit the older crowd a little harder. One's gonna hit the younger crowd. But one Return of the Mac, man. When I hear that, I just feel like I'm supposed to have a boombox behind me, people walking. Uh, and then the other one, I listen to this song every time before I do a speaking engagement, before I get in front of a crowd. But Hustle and Motivate by Nipsey Hussle. So
All right. Yeah, definitely. Now, were you a big Nipsey Hussle fan?
I was. Yeah, my homie put me on it when I was in college with my best friends from the West Coast, and then obviously just seeing what he was able to do in the community, just a real person. Yeah, man, his passing hit me hard.
Right. So yes, so like I mentioned, you are the executive director for True Change, a non-for-profit that you're running. Can you let us know what True Change is and what it's about?
Yeah, so True Change, that's the nonprofit side, and that focuses on integrating financial and emotional wellness for high school age students to prepare them for career readiness. So a lot of times kids are going through school. First off, it's hard to stay engaged in anything if you don't know why you're doing it. All right, we're talking to these kids. We're telling, hey, go to school, learn all this stuff, but how's that going to help them in the future? So by focusing on social emotional learning, which is just addressing their emotional well-being in order for them to intake information, and talking about how that helps with their financial literacy in the decisions that they'll have to make once they're in a career. That's the main premise of the nonprofit.
That's beautiful, fam. Really good. That's really good. Can you explain where your passion for teaching young adults about financial literacy comes from?
Yeah, man, just it comes from being a kid. So when I was in fifth grade, like I mentioned, I'm from Gwinnett County, which is a little north of the city. And typically, school districts are great up there. Most of the families are doing pretty well on the surface. But knowing that the financial struggle my family went through when I was in fifth grade changed our whole life. And I went from being able to do all the sports clubs, not worrying about anything, to now mom's making $10 an hour, where those struggles are hitting me, that stress is hitting me. So when it comes to financial literacy and just being able to make decisions from a place of surplus and not having to struggle, it's important for people to have those foundational principles. And then coming through school and then going to college, majoring in economics, working in the corporate world, working with very wealthy families, and realizing like a lot of these people aren't that smart, bro. Like it seems like they're doing all these decisions, they have some secrets, but really it's just foundational principles that they were able to build upon as families. And just having that structure, having that discipline, and knowing that, all right, a lot of communities are struggling, they need to have this knowledge, which seems like it's a hard language to speak, but I feel like I'm equipped to deliver that message to different types of crowds.
Where do you get this confidence from to do public speaking? I know grown adults that are deathly afraid to speak in public.
Yeah, man. To be honest, dude, I was That's crazy you asked. I was thinking about that earlier. Um, Someone asked me that where my confidence come from, and it's not really confidence in me. It's confidence in knowing I'm called to do what I'm supposed to do. I feel like whenever someone's being bold, it can't just be about them. It's I'm doing this to impact other people. This isn't about me. So all that fear I had, you need to get rid of it, bro. Me still being nervous, still being scared anytime I step on the stage, but knowing it's bigger than me. And if I don't talk, if I don't deliver this story, I'm not being the best version of myself. I'm not carrying all my gifts. I'm not being a good steward of what I've been blessed with. So it's really, man, thinking about the outcome, knowing it's bigger than me. And then from there, dude, I always say you can interview your fears. Once you decide, like, what am I really afraid of? Well, I'm afraid of what people are going to say. I'm afraid of judgment. Like, I already know who I am. Like, I know who my father says I am. So I'm not worried about what anybody else says at the end of the day.
That's excellent. Of course. And you said you're from Atlanta and Gwinnett County. What observations have you made in your own community where you saw the need, the void for emotional support, mental health support, financial support to the young adults in your community? What did you see?
Some of it's seen and some of it's living, dude. So like I said, I was working in corporate, making very good money on the outside, but I was miserable on the inside. I would go home, I would stress, I would have panic attacks, I would just not be the same person. And most people are scared to talk about that. But as you share your stories, you realize, yo, this person's going through the same exact thing that I'm going through. They're just not talking about it. Literally, bro, no cap. Had someone call me at 6:30 about an hour 15 minutes ago. He works for a big banking company, and he was talking to me about one of his newer employees, a 23-year-old black male. And he was like, hey, like, I can tell his emotional struggles are hurting his output at work. Like, he's going through something and he doesn't know who to talk to. He doesn't know who to turn to. Him not seeing anybody who looks like him in his environment and feeling like you're isolated. And knowing that no matter what background you have, everybody has that feeling at some point or the other. So just having conversations with people, and as we open up, as we're vulnerable with one another, realizing a lot of other people are having these issues across different spectrums, across different industries. You're in the healthcare industry hardcore, so you see that probably with your coworkers, not only patients but with the workers as well.
Mhm.
So being in banking, being in customer service, whatever you're in, knowing everybody's dealing with those things, and just feeling the need to have those open conversations.
How This segues right into my next question. How do your personal experiences help you connect with your demographic?
Um, I mentioned this word before, but vulnerability and authenticity. So a bit of my story that I share openly is, like I said, I was in corporate America going through a lot, not only at work but at home too. Me having a complicated relationship with my father. I love him to death, but family relationship can be complicated. Um, and me going through all of that and eventually having a mental breakdown to where I was on suicide watch in jail, spent time in a mental hospital, and then the next week having to go into work and not say anything to anybody, feeling like I'm isolated, feeling like, oh, I have this big secret, and that eats at people. So yeah, man, going through that experience, and eventually when I decided to leave and start talking about it more, people messaging me on LinkedIn, people grabbing me to the side saying I've been through the same thing, or a close relative has been through the same thing, and knowing like there's no shame in that. So I hope that answered your question, but just
Mhm.
that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I realize everybody has a story. Like, I don't necessarily think my story is unique, because I know everybody has a background, everybody has a story. Just when I'm able to share my story, then people are connect. A lot of times they say, I have to know your energy before I trust your intentions. So when you're able to meet someone at a heart level, that's when their mind opens up. That's where they're able to receive whatever you're telling them and saying, I can relate to this person because they're just like me, as opposed to this is someone just giving me tips and tricks, but they don't really know what I'm going through. They don't know that I'm struggling at home. They don't know what the demons that I have in my closet that I feel like I can't talk about. But when you take off the mask, when you share your full self, people are like, I can see myself in that person, no matter their age, demographic, social status. Once you connect on that heart level, then that's when the mind opens up. So
Yeah, that's true. It's a good skills to have. What are some barriers do you feel that are in the way of young adults actually actualizing these skills? Before you started coaching them, well, what do you see as barriers?
um the first barriers is more self limitations, man. It's a lot of us have like that imposter syndrome to where we have so many insecurities that there may be an issue and we can't even get to the root of it to fix it. So that first barrier is saying like, yo, first off, I'm not broken. Like nothing's wrong with me. Everybody has challenges. Let me have the security to admit that to myself, right? And then once we're able to admit, all right, I have these challenges, I have these gaps in my life. How can I do something to improve it? Then that's when we can put plans into action. But that biggest barrier just being that self limitation. Sometimes it's people who just don't have enough exposure in certain areas. So they say you're a product of your environment, right? A lot of times, though, with the internet, with social media, when we're intentional, we can see how other people live. We can reach out. We can get some type of exposure. I always say your vision is your imagination, right? What you see is different from what you can envision your life as. So just that barrier, knowing that there's more, knowing I'm not broken. And once we get past that, knowing like I have unlimited potential to do anything. I have unlimited potential to break those generational curses of trauma that's been passed on and passed on and passed on. I'm strong enough to do that. And once you know you're strong enough to do that, that's when you're like, all right, let me take the action to take those steps to be a better person. Um,
That's excellent. I just got a question I'm curious to ask you
for
because
sure.
you went to high school in Atlanta as well.
Yep.
Do you feel you were properly prepared through the high school system, even for some of the work that you're doing with young adults now?
Not through the system, but through my own experiences. Uh, so what I mean by that is you're familiar with Gwinnett County, but for people who aren't, North Atlanta, very, very diverse population in regards to you go to school and there's all different types of people that you can interact with if you choose to. Most people get stuck in their own circles, but if you choose to, you can interact with a lot of people. Um, I remember when I must have been in elementary school, and my pops was talking to me about W.E.B. Du Bois and dual consciousness, or double consciousness, to where you're a black man, but all these other people see you in a certain way, and knowing how different people see you. So, at a very young age, I started being very intentional about intentionally getting out of my comfort zone to talk to a bunch of people from different backgrounds. And as I was in high school, and honestly, most of my friends got kicked out of school. My life could have went a completely different route, but that forcing me out of my social circle to go to different circles. And once you hop into the real world, you're forced to interact with people who you don't agree with politically, religiously, whatever that is, but you have to know how to have conversations with them. Um, so that high school experience, as far as just allowing myself to be in different crowds, that's more what's prepared me to what I do now when it comes with interacting with people, when it comes with connecting with people, no matter what their background is, and knowing everybody has a common thread. That's more what prepared me than learning algebra formulas and all of that stuff.
Right. Especially environmentally in Atlanta, like Ti would say, coming out the trap, right? These young adults growing up, with adverse situations, barriers, as we just discussed.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your approaches for some of these young adults right there in Atlanta who are forced to trap, right? And do things one way, right? And not necessarily have the skills or the wherewithal to know that there's other ways that it can do similar things just from a legal perspective, especially financially. What is the approach that you use when you're dealing with, I imagine, some young people who have these backgrounds?
For sure. So I said this word before, but what really, when we use the word force, I think of exposure, right? So people feel like they're forced to do something else because they just don't know anything else. We talk about trapping, right? And then I mentioned economics. So when I went to school, found out about economics, everything clicked because I realized, bro, I've been flipping stuff my whole life. Like it's the same concepts, just in a different avenue. It's a different vehicle that you're using those same skills. So a lot of times when it comes to marketing, distribution, like organization, networking, all of those skills are transferable to a lot of different fields. It's just
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times they don't have exposure to those different fields. Um, yeah, man. So I feel like everybody has natural gifts that they're born with. It's just what vehicle are you going to use those gifts in? That creativity that a lot of people have that they just think, oh, I can just use this as a rapper or something, right? When it comes with being charismatic, connecting with people, it's like, oh, I'm gonna be a scammer. Like I've had so many conversations. I don't know how I didn't end up being a scammer. Um, just because you're able to talk, connect with people, get them to trust you, and then take advantage. But once you're able to, oh, there's a sales job that does this to where I'm connecting someone, finding out what's important to them, and then delivering value. So it's just that exposure to where, hey, bro, what natural skills that you have, I see that, oh, you're making money this route, but let's look at this to where now you can sleep at night. Now you're still making that income. Now you don't have to hide what you do. Like, so it's just that exposure to where, hey, bro, you're not forced to do this. Let's get creative. And then giving them a peek in different areas to where, oh, I can use these same skills in a different avenue.
How do you know if you and your team are doing a good job working with these young adults?
Yeah. Um, that's always a tough question. So when it comes with how do you measure the effectiveness of changing somebody's heart, right? That's tough. And a lot of times you don't see the results until years from now. You don't know where someone will actually end up. Um, so for me, some of the best compliments I will get is when students come and say, you understand me, you connect with me. Like, you know what I'm going through. And because of that, I want to listen to what you're telling me. It's knowing that what I'm saying isn't falling on deaf ears. And a lot of times, I don't necessarily think what I'm saying is different than what your grandma would tell you, what your parents would tell you. But sometimes just the messenger needs to be differently for a message to click to somebody. So for me, just seeing that effectiveness is obviously, I guess, a story. So in my book, one part of it is creating a personal mission, right? Because I feel like your everyday actions need to align with your bigger picture goals. If you don't know how your actions align, why would I do anything that I do, right? If I don't know, see how that's tying in. So I had a young lady reach out to me who read my book, and she had just lost her father, just lost her father tragically, and she was struggling to go to work every day. But once she was able to go through and really articulate, yo, what I believe my mission is while I'm here, she saw how her job was tying into that. And it gave her a sense of purpose to where now she was like, I was struggling to wake up every day. But now, since I'm intentional about knowing, all right, what's my mission? Who am I called to impact? How am I called to impact them? What skills am I using to do that? That makes it easier just to go through every day. That makes it easier to stretch out your comfort zone. That makes it easier to say, all right, I'm not forced to do this, but I know I'm getting to do something to get to my bigger picture. So when I hear stories like that, it just is kind of acknowledgement like, all right, I'm making a difference. I see what that is. When kids are like, yo, we need to have him come back. When young adults are like, yo, we need to have him come back. Um, when they're on, sometimes it's just as easy as them putting their phone down and fully engaging with me and saying, I say something and you see the click to where they're like, what? I didn't know that he struggled with that. I didn't know that he's going through that. Currently, I still go through stuff. Everybody does. But when sometimes you can just see that light bulb come and then that engagement, and you know, all right, even if they may not catch it all right now, it's somewhere. Sometimes I just need to be the spark. Um, so yeah.
That's excellent. So, if a young adult or parents are considering, sending their loved ones to you, explain what coaching looks like by you?
Yeah, for sure. So right now, candidly, I don't really do. I have a very, very small group who I do one-on-one coaching with. Um, so my business structure just break. I have a for-profit and a nonprofit. The nonprofit side called True Change, that is more for small cohorts. So cohorts of 6 to 12 students that I take through a 12-week program. So if you go to my site, you can sign up on the mailing list. So you can have a young person that's ages 15 to 19 beyond that. So that's just a group I can feed into, have full access to me, give them different exposure opportunities, and work with them on a monthly basis. On the other side, I work with nonprofits, I work with corporations, I work with colleges and high schools to where I come in and then do speeches or workshops with them. So that's a larger group. So if you're in charge of a larger group of students, and my message resonates with you, they can contact me on that avenue and we can see how we can work together.
That's great. How do you know when your students are hitting their goals?
They tell me. So one thing that I think a lot of people miss, especially young adults, is, and you could probably resonate with this when you're thinking, you're told so often what your goal should be that you kind of just start tuning people out. But you ask a 15, 16, 19-year old, all right, where do you want to improve? And most of the time, nobody's asking them that question. People are just telling them what to do. And second time, most of the time, their answer is the same thing you're thinking. Once they step back and look, like, all right, cool. One student I'm working with now, he said, yo, I was talking to my homie, and it's just funny how stuff comes. He's like, I want to talk to this girl. He's 18 years old. He's like, yeah, man, I want to talk to this girl, all of this. But she said, yo, you don't take anything serious. Why would you take me serious? And once we started peeling the onion back, he was like, yeah, bro, like, I understand. I've never taken anything serious. I took my studies serious. I'm not responsible. I want to work on that. So imagine his mom probably telling him all the time, Blank, you're not responsible. You need to work on that. But it shows up in his life differently to where now it's like, yo, what do you want to work on that? How can I become more responsible? And now that's something we're working on. So it's taking those small steps to saying, all right, you're going to have to step out your comfort zone. What do you want to get better at? Let's set some type of discipline. And once they identify what their goal is and what they need to work on, then it's easier for them to be motivated as opposed to me telling you, hey, you need to get an A on this. A, what colleges are you applying to? As opposed to, all right, bro, where characteristically, where's that gap? And once they identify the gap, then it's easy to motivate them. I'm not doing anything. Like they have motivated themselves. I'm just giving them steps to get there. Um,
Yeah, that's great. And I know that when you're working with young adults, sometimes they can uh, get close to you. In terms of seeing them succeed, and you feel glad that they're doing well. Can you speak of a specific student or situation or circumstance where it just touched your heart so much that you would just it further reiterated why you should continue doing what you're doing?
whew, um, trying to think of one. So someone came to mind. I was at a university talking, and I was sharing my story. So they contacted me afterwards on LinkedIn, and or no, on Instagram. Contacted me on Instagram, wrote a message, and started telling me about Cam. I've never heard anybody talk about their stay at a mental hospital. I went through the same thing. I'm new to this university, and I feel like I'm lost. I feel like I'm not worthy. I feel like I'm not deserving to be here. And I have those same thoughts going through my head about, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here. I don't know if I'm worthy. And hearing you say that you had those same thoughts has made me shift my whole perspective, knowing like I'm not alone, knowing that I have people out there who care about me and help and want to help. So it's when things like that happen to where I'm able to shift someone's perspective just off a few words. And now knowing that I'm not going to be there to walk alongside everybody, right? I can't be everybody's personal mentor, but knowing that they are still connecting with my story and able to follow me. And I answer DMs, like they hit me up, we're able to talk through certain things. Um, but just really knowing as a coach, knowing the separation between being a coach and being a mentor, and knowing as a coach, I'm trying to give you tools so you're self sustainable in the future. I don't want it to ever be to where someone depends on me to get like an emotional high or motivational high. I want to give them the tools so now you're self motivated. So when I know people are boom, they have the tools, they're self motivated, and now they're able to advance. That's what gets me more than someone just saying, "Oh, what you said was really cool," or "Oh, you were really funny," or "It's cool you played basketball." Um, it's cool you made a lot of money, but it's like, oh, I have a different perspective on how I can go about my day to day. That's when that's when I feel it.
That's great. Now, if you could look back at the 19-year-old Cam now, right? What would you tell yourself? What advice would you give yourself?
Um, so the first thing that came to mind was just like the clearest words I ever heard. So mentioned suicide watch in jail and really was just in silence. Got transferred in isolation, was just in silence. And three things came to me that were just clear as day. Um, the first was you're not in control. So I feel like a lot of times we're over here stressing, we're over here trying to force things to happen as men. We're trying to manhandle every situation. Um, and that just adds more strength. But it's more, hey, bro, do your best and everything will fall in place as it happens. Um, the second thing was humble yourself. So knowing that, all right, I feel like I'm smart. I feel like I'm good at talking. I can articulate myself. But knowing like Cam, you have a lot of things to work on internally too. Like who are you in the dark? And knowing you have to address those things to really grow. And then the third thing I would tell him is don't care if anybody calls you crazy. Like a lot of times we're going to be led to do stuff that isn't going to make sense to other people. We're over here worried about our followers. We're over here worried about impressing all these other people. Don't worry about them, bro. Do what you're called to do. Don't care if people call you crazy. Speak your mind. Me talking about my experiences, most people are scared to do that because they're like, yo, people think I'm crazy. But everybody has crazy thoughts. Like everybody been through something. So that's the thing. Don't don't feel like you're in control. A lot of times control is like the illusion that you can dictate what's going to happen. You could just put in the work. You can just worry about what you're doing. Don't worry about the results. Be humble. We got to be humble to learn anything, to grow. And then don't care if people call you crazy, man. Like,
Right. That's awesome. I know you were speaking about your experience from the mental health side of things, experience that you went through, going to jail and things of that nature. If you don't mind, if you want to just touch on that a little bit, I just want to ask you a question because actually I work in a hospital
yep,
on a, I represent, patients who are going to these units, right?
yep,
For all various reasons. And I would like to say, I just wanted to ask you, well, I want to say first that I commend you, first of all, for having gone through that process because I know I couldn't, right? And I worked there, right?
mm,
But ultimately, but see, I have a healthy respect for these individuals because what I've learned from the experience, you know, I've dealt with individuals who, as reasons as early as when the pandemic first started, the dude was a billionaire
mm,
and lost his money in the stock market
mm,
and ended up in there. You understand?
yep,
All the way down to, let's say, undocumented workers and things of that nature.
yep,
In the scope of Atlanta, I know that there's mental health issues. What I'm observing, and I'm sure a lot of people are aware of this already, is that, let's say, outside of the major states like New York and things of that nature, mental health, there's a drop off in coverage and
yep,
resources and the ability to find a solution to a mental health problem.
yep,
So with your experience, if you would care to speak on it, I think that it would resonate with people, if they heard a little bit, just about, if you care to share what did you go through, and what was the experience like there? What did you go through?
Yeah. So we're talking about more about interacting with these individuals who are going through certain things, and that, yeah. So I'm an open book, bro. So what happened with me was, it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and I went into full psychosis. So for people who don't know what that was, I was in a different world. Ended
It
up
was
running out.
traumatic.
Yeah, yeah. Ended up running out the house, passing out on the side of the road. Was suicidal, having the craziest thoughts. Didn't really know didn't know what day it was. Like, and then cops ended up coming, and at that point in time, I wanted to take my life. I was thinking, how can they take my life? Oh, I want him to shoot me, and me punching a cop in the mouth so he would shoot me. So luckily, I'm still here. I got tased, but knowing that that's a complicated situation in itself, right? Like, you have an officer coming. He, I'm no shoes, no shirt, barefoot, wearing cut off sweatpants in December, laying on the side of the road. Most people would be able to tell you, right, he's not in his right mind, but knowing like that's just not what they're trained to do. Fast forward to where I'm entering the mental hospital, right? Still on the same tip, still going nuts, interacting with a mental health worker, and them having the training, them knowing how to speak to me, knowing how to interact with me, and my demeanor completely changing. And just, you spoke about resources, and just a lot of times in larger cities, sometimes they're not, they're able to delegate resources for special trained individuals for these calls to interact with people. But other places, if they're more stressed, they're trying to make someone do a bunch of different jobs, to where they don't have the proper training. And even a 2-hour seminar isn't going to really teach them how to interact with these individuals. Um, so just being able to talk about that candidly, and saying that, if we're talking about police officers, if we're talking about any job, most people are overworked or underpaid at their job, to where they're trying to teach you how to do someone else's job. And it's like, bro, I'm not paid to do this. Like, why do you have me trying to go everywhere? And just
Mm-hmm.
the expectation being, they're not going to be able to deliver that at a high level. But delegating resources so you can have specialty people work on special projects, special interactions. So that was kind of if I was speaking to your question, that was mine, to where it's like, I understand, I have empathy for the officers who are going through that. Because if someone punch you in the mouth, bro, you don't know what to do. If you've never been trained, you never been trained. If you feel threatened, it's an emotional place to be in, but also having the humility as people to realize, I'm not trained to be in this predicament, get somebody else who is.
Right.
Um, so that's kind of where my heart is. So when I see stuff on the news, I'm diagnosed. I was diagnosed as bipolar. Um, I understand that. I went through that twice. The second time, I knew what I was about to go through, and I was able to get help and admitted right when it was happening. So I didn't have to go down that path. But I understand how that goes, to where you don't have control of it. But I also understand, once I was able to do that, get around the right people, they knew exactly how to handle me. I wasn't a threat to anybody. They had the patience, they had the training, they've seen this before. So it's just being realistic about the situations, and not saying, all right, like, this person's crazy, you handle them, but just having that empathy, having that humility to admit where we need to grow, and then going from there.
That's excellent. That's excellent. That's just a message that I also like preach to my patients, that I let them know that you can suffer from mental health issues and still be productive in your life.
100%, bro.
And since you shared something, I'm gonna share something. I suffered a loss of a child,
Mm,
and 2 years old,
mm,
and um You know, I had been in a bad place mentally for a long time, you know, and actually happened in Atlanta.
Mm,
And that's why I left and I never went back.
mm,
So you can only imagine, I saw as soon as I said I see the frown marks in your on your head, right?
yeah,
So you can understand that's just a natural response from anyone is gonna feel that about a child.
yeah,
And I think that the resources that I had, right? Uh, others don't have,
mm,
right? And one concept that I was taught is that I could be happy and grieve too.
mm,
And it was a foreign concept. I never heard of it the whole time I was experiencing my grief. You understand what I'm saying?
yeah,
And I made a mess of myself because I told myself that I was never going to be happy again as long as I didn't have my son. You
mm,
understand?
yeah,
So, words have power to them. And I believe that, you know, life has a lot of obstacles. It has mental health obstacles. It
yeah,
has health issues as obstacles. You understand?
yeah,
It's a number of things that could take us out. You understand?
mm,
And but by the grace of God, we are here, we're able to function. If you woke up this morning and you know your name, it's a good thing,
yeah,
you know. So I just want to give you your kudos for being resilient as a young man, young African American man who has gone through your own trials and tribulations and gotten to this point where you can give back, and that's what's needed. We need more young males like yourself to do more of what you're doing. So I also wanted to ask you, outside of all this work you do helping others, what are some self-care things you do for yourself?
for sure. So one thing that I implement is like I'm a man of faith. So I wake up in the morning and I spend probably 30 to an hour just in prayer in the word, just really getting my mind right before the day start, bro. That's probably been the most transformational thing I could ever do. Uh, yeah, you mentioned everybody is gonna have issues or problems, right? Everybody, like, the storm is gonna hit, but how are we preparing before it hits? So knowing first thing in the morning, all right, let me get right because I know something's gonna come up later today, and if I haven't had this time, I see how I'm a different person when I miss out on that. So yeah, man, just like spending that time in silence, hearing the voice that matters is probably the biggest thing. Other thing is just pausing, bro, taking a forced rest. We get caught up with the grind that a lot of times, like I said, we just need to release control. Just taking a forced rest is so important. It's productive too. People feel like I'm not being productive if I'm not working. No, rest is productive. Um, I was talking to a cat, older, very affluent dude, and he gave me like the richest metaphor you could give. He said, "Cam, after I take a rest, I'm quiet in my morning. He's like, I feel like I charged up Tesla. I'm just ready to go." I was like, "What, bro? What type of?" You gotta have to change that metaphor, but just yeah, that rest is productive. And then yeah, and then last thing is just having that community around you. Um, Knowing that, especially as young people, your circle is more important than we realize. A lot of times we feel like, all right, my circle, they may be doing that, but I'm not. That's not gonna rub off on me. Or all right, I could talk to you about women, I could talk to you about clothes, I could talk to you about shoes, but when I'm going something through something at home, I feel like I can't talk to you about that. So it's just having that community of people you can confide in. Sometimes that looks like a therapist or a counselor, but also if for people in a relationship, being able to have those vulnerable conversations with your wife or your lady, us as men feeling like, yo, I can't talk to them about that. But knowing like, all right, this is my partner, this is someone close to me. And once you do, it's a weight lifted off. It's one thing you have to carry, and they're there to support you as well. Um, so yeah, man. So just that quiet time, that forced pause, that forced rest, and then surrounding yourself with people who you can confide in.
That's great. You still balling? Still playing ball? Or what's up with that?
Every so often, bro. Every so often. So I'll be doing the old man runs. Like I like to say.
I hear you.
Yeah. I tore
Yeah.
my
Well,
ACL and meniscus a couple years ago.
okay.
So I had to go through that, but I can still shoot.
I hear you. I hear you. Are
Yeah.
you following the NBA or are you into sports? What are you into?
Yeah. So I follow the NBA. Honestly, bro, I probably watched 2 full games this year. Uh, my whole thing, I watch PTI or Around the Horn. That's kind of like my new snippet. But yeah, I try to go to bed early, so I'll be catching a lot of games. But definitely, I want to see what the Sixers do. I feel like right now they're the front runner in my mind. I feel like Brooklyn Nets have a little too much drama to get a ring right now. But yeah, so I follow the NBA heavy.
And you listen to rap music? You into hip hop?
Yeah. So it's weird, man. I feel like I'm entering that stage to where I'm just like, I don't want to hear none of that new stuff. Like I got my music. So like I mentioned Nipsey, Kendrick, J. Cole, old Kanye. Yeah, man, that's kind of what I always have on repeat. And then honestly, bro, just gospel too. So that's typically how I start the mornings. Um, if I'm waking up, going to the gym, make sure the first thing I put in my mind is something positive, something I can feed off of. Um, yeah.
That's dope. I'm gonna put you on a spot though. I want
Okay.
you to give me your top 5 rappers out of Atlanta.
Top 5 rappers out of Atlanta. All right. Outkast, first and foremost, number one. Um, I'm gonna say, yeah, Outkast, Jeezy, Gucci. All right, it's getting tough now. It's getting tough now. I can have some honorable mentions.
You could do what you
All
want to
right, all
do.
right. Outkast, Jeezy, Gucci. I'm gonna say Future,
Mm.
just cause, yeah, Future. Oh man. All right, man. I know. All right, and then I'm throwing some honorable mentions. Future, and then Young Thug has like always been one of my favorites. Honorable mention: Migos. You got to represent the North. Ti go everything he does. Got to give him his respect. Luda, got to give him his respect. But if I'm just talking my favorites, not
Yeah.
necessarily the best, but my favorites,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna stick with those 5.
Okay.
I
All
don't know
right.
who I
That's
left out, man. I left out
yeah.
somebody.
Well, if you left out Ti, I don't know, man. You
Oh
might not
no,
have went
no.
go back home. I don't know.
Oh no, no. He invented trap music,
Yeah.
period. But Ti, man, and then and then Lecrae, just on the gospel rap tip.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we throw him in there.
I like Lecrae too. I like Ti. I actually met Ti before he got famous, and always liked him as a person. Like he's down to earth. And I met him at JFK Airport, and he was trying to get on. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah,
I liked his demeanor back then. Like to see where he is now is like, yo, that's dope.
yeah,
But listen, Cam, let me tell you something, man. Like I said, you are a positive young man that's doing great things in an environment in Atlanta. I think is much needed, and like I just said, I did live in Atlanta a period of time, and I would have to say Atlanta is an entrepreneurial area,
yeah,
so that I think that people who are looking to start businesses, especially people of color, Atlanta is a great place for that. I find that people are very supportive there. If you have a business or restaurant or something, they're gonna show up and show out.
yeah.
So salute to the people of Atlanta for being supportive. Salute to you for having a vision to help, and to serve. It's commendable, given your experience that you shared with us. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. And I just want to give you a kudos for a job well done up to this point. And I know that your career is not over at this point, but I know that the best is yet to come.
No, I appreciate that, brother. And then salute to you, man. Just for first off taking the initiative to do a podcast. A lot of people have ideas. A lot of people like, yo, I would like to do this, but that giving people a platform to where they can connect with other people, bro, that's huge. So much salute, dog.
Appreciate that. So, I will also, in the future, like you to come back and contribute again. Give us an update on where you've gotten to, and we're looking forward to seeing great things for you in the future.
Most definitely, brother. Appreciate you having me, man.
All right. Thank you again, Cam, for joining CJ Cares podcast. All right. Thank you.